Imagine walking into a room and saying something so powerful that everyone stops, listens, and feels compelled to connect with you. Sounds impossible, right? But what if I told you it isn't? Most people go through life unknowingly sabotaging their relationships, friendships, and even their careers because of the way they communicate. They say things that push people away instead of pulling them closer. But here's the catch. It's not your fault. Society has conditioned us to focus on ourselves, our achievements, and our desires, making us forget a fundamental truth. Humans crave connection. So here's the deal. What if I could give you 8 phrases that would flip the script? 8 simple things you can say that make people lean in, open up, and want to be around you. These aren't shallow tricks or gimmicks. They're rooted in psychology, Stoic wisdom, and the power of authenticity. This isn't about manipulation. It's about becoming the kind of person others are magnetically drawn to because of your presence, your honesty, and your ability to make them feel seen. But before we dive in, ask yourself this. How often do you feel like people don't truly listen to you? How often do you feel misunderstood or worse, invisible? The good news. That changes today. You're about to uncover the secret language that 99.9% of people can't resist. These aren't just words, they're tools for transformation. And by the end of this, you'll know exactly what to say to build trust, deepen relationships, and leave an unforgettable impression. Let's start with the first and arguably most powerful thing you can say. I understand how you feel. 1. I understand how you feel. How often do you feel genuinely understood? Think about the last time someone truly validated your emotions, not with empty words, but with a deep and sincere acknowledgement. Chances are it's rare. That's because most people are so wrapped up in their own world that they forget the golden rule of human interaction. People don't just want to be heard, they want to be understood. And when you say, I understand how you feel, you're doing more than just offering words. You're building a bridge of trust and connection that's nearly impossible to resist. Let's break this down. What does it mean to truly understand someone's feelings? It's not about agreeing with them or trying to solve their problems. It's about stepping into their world for a moment and acknowledging their reality. The Stoics had a term for this, sympatheia, or the recognition that we're all part of the same human experience. When you say, I understand how you feel, you're affirming that shared humanity. But here's the catch, it has to be genuine. People can smell fake empathy from a mile away. So how do you make it real? Start by listening, really listening. When someone shares something with you, don't rush to respond or offer advice. Pause. Absorb their words. Then reflect back what they've said in your own words. For example, if a friend says, I feel like I'm failing at everything, you could respond, that sounds overwhelming. I can see why you'd feel that way. That's empathy in action. Now let's add another layer. Have you ever noticed that when someone feels understood, their defenses drop? It's like they can finally exhale. That's because being understood is deeply disarming. It signals that you're not here to judge or fix them, you're here to stand beside them. And in a world full of noise, that's incredibly rare. But here's where the Stoic mindset comes in. Empathy isn't just about making others feel good, it's about cultivating your own sense of patience and understanding. Marcus Aurelius wrote, when you arise in the morning, think of what a privilege it is to be alive, to think, to enjoy, to love. By understanding others, you're also practicing gratitude for the shared human experience. You're reminding yourself that everyone is fighting their own battles just like you are. Now let's tackle the hard part. What happens when you don't agree with someone's feelings? Maybe they're upset about something you think is trivial, or their perspective feels completely alien to you. Here's the key. Empathy isn't about agreement, it's about acknowledgement. You don't have to validate their actions, but you can validate their emotions. For example, if a coworker is furious about a decision you made, you might say, I understand that this decision feels frustrating for you. Notice how this doesn't concede guilt or responsibility, it simply acknowledges their feelings. Let me ask you this. How different would your relationships be if you made a habit of saying, I understand how you feel? How many arguments would be avoided? How many walls would come down? The truth is, this phrase has the power to transform not just individual conversations, but entire relationships. It creates a space where people feel safe to be themselves, which is the foundation of any meaningful connection. Now here's your challenge. The next time someone shares something with you, whether it's a problem, a frustration, or even a joy, pause before you respond. Take a deep breath and then say, "I understand how you feel." Notice how they react. Notice how the dynamic shifts. And most importantly, notice how it makes you feel. Because when you practice empathy, you're not just changing the way others see you, you're changing the way you see the world. Stay with me, because the next phrase we're about to discuss is just as powerful. It's a simple expression of gratitude that can completely change the energy of any conversation. Thank you for sharing that with me. Let's dive in. 2. Thank you for sharing that with me. Have you ever shared something deeply personal, only to be met with silence, indifference, or a quick change of subject? It's a feeling that cuts deep, isn't it? That moment of vulnerability, dismissed or ignored, leaves you questioning your worth in the eyes of others. Now flip the script. Think about the time someone genuinely acknowledged your words, responding with, "Thank you for sharing that with me." How did that make you feel? Warm, valued, safe, like your voice truly mattered. This simple phrase is one of the most powerful tools you can use to strengthen relationships and deepen connections. Why? Because it goes beyond merely listening. It communicates appreciation. It tells the other person what you've just said is important, and I value your courage in sharing it with me. And when people feel valued, they open up in ways that create unforgettable bonds. Let's take a closer look at what's happening when you say, "Thank you for sharing that with me." First, you're recognizing the effort it took for someone to share their thoughts, feelings, or experiences. Vulnerability is a risk, and many people hesitate to open up because they fear judgment or rejection. By expressing gratitude, you're removing that fear. You're telling them, "I see you, I hear you, and I appreciate you." Think about the power this has in your everyday interactions. Maybe it's a friend confiding in you about a challenge they're facing. Perhaps it's a colleague presenting a bold idea in a meeting. Or maybe it's your partner sharing a moment of joy or pain. In each of these situations, pausing to say, "Thank you for sharing that with me," changes the dynamic entirely. It shifts the focus away from you and places it firmly on them. And when people feel seen and valued, they naturally gravitate toward you. But let's not stop there. The phrase doesn't just create connection, it also deepens trust. When someone hears you thank them for sharing, they're more likely to feel safe sharing even more. This opens the door to honest, meaningful conversations that can transform your relationships. It's like a ripple effect. Your gratitude encourages their openness, which strengthens your bond, which then creates a foundation for even deeper connection. Now, here's a question for you. How often do you show appreciation for the people around you? Do you thank them for their honesty, their effort, or their willingness to share with you? Or do you take these moments for granted, rushing through conversations without fully acknowledging their significance? The truth is, gratitude is a habit, and like any habit, it takes practice. But the results are worth it. Imagine the impact of becoming the kind of person who consistently makes others feel valued. How much richer would your relationships be? Let's take this idea one step further. While "thank you for sharing that with me" is incredibly powerful on its own, it becomes even more impactful when paired with genuine curiosity. After thanking someone, try asking a follow-up question to show that you're truly engaged. For example, "Thank you for sharing that with me. What made you feel that way? I appreciate you telling me that. Can you tell me more about what happened?" These questions show that your gratitude isn't just polite, it's heartfelt. And that's what sets you apart. Anyone can say thanks, but few people take the time to dig deeper and show that they truly care. Let's also address the elephant in the room: authenticity. Saying "thank you for sharing that with me" isn't a magic phrase you can toss around casually. It only works when it's real. If your tone or body language suggests disinterest, the other person will pick up on it immediately. That's why it's so important to pair your words with genuine attention. Maintain eye contact. Nod as they speak. Let your tone convey warmth and sincerity. In other words, don't just say it, mean it. Here's another angle to consider. Stoicism teaches us to approach life with humility and gratitude. Marcus Aurelius often wrote about the importance of being present and valuing the people around us. By thanking someone for sharing, you're embodying this philosophy. You're practicing gratitude in its purest form, gratitude for the courage, honesty, and humanity of another person. It's a small act, but its impact is profound. Let's bring this home with a practical challenge. The next time someone shares something with you, big or small, pause for a moment. Look them in the eye and say, "Thank you for sharing that with me." Notice how their face changes. Notice how the energy in the room shifts. And most importantly, notice how it makes you feel. Because when you express gratitude, you're not just making someone else feel good, you're cultivating a mindset of appreciation that enriches your own life. Before we move on to the next phrase, let me ask you something. Have you ever felt truly appreciated for sharing your thoughts or feelings? How did that shape your relationship with the person who showed you that gratitude? Drop a number 1 in the comments if you've ever had an experience like that. And while you're at it, don't forget to like this video if it's resonating with you so far. Now, here's the real kicker. If you want more transformative tools like this one, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. That way you'll never miss a chance to learn the strategies that can take your connections and your life to the next level. Next, we'll explore another phrase that's just as impactful. You're right. Stay tuned because this one is a game changer. 3. You're right. Few things disarm someone more effectively than hearing the words, "You're right." Think about it. When was the last time you were in an argument, or even a minor disagreement, and the other person unexpectedly said those 2 words? It likely stopped you in your tracks. It's a phrase so simple, yet it carries immense power to transform conflicts into opportunities for connection. Why? Because it acknowledges the other person's perspective without defensiveness, signaling respect and humility. At its core, saying "you're right" taps into a deep psychological need we all share, the need to be validated. As humans, we're hardwired to seek affirmation that our views, experiences, and feelings are legitimate. When you tell someone they're right, you're not just agreeing with them, you're validating their intelligence, their perspective, and, ultimately, their worth. But let's be clear. This doesn't mean you should go around conceding every argument or compromising your values just to make others feel good. True Stoic wisdom lies in recognizing when agreement serves a higher purpose and when it's better to stand your ground. Saying "you're right" isn't about giving in. It's about knowing that sometimes the relationship matters more than the point you're trying to make. Now, let's explore this idea in practice. Picture a heated discussion where emotions are running high. Maybe it's with a partner, a coworker, or even a stranger. The instinctual response in these moments is to dig in, defend your position, and prove you're correct. But what happens when you pause, take a breath, and say "you're right"? That small moment of acknowledgement can diffuse tension almost instantly. It shifts the conversation from confrontation to collaboration, paving the way for mutual understanding. Here's a question. Why is it so difficult for most people to say these words? Often it's because of ego. We fear that admitting someone else is right somehow diminishes our own intelligence or authority. But this is a fallacy. In reality, acknowledging someone else's point strengthens your credibility. It shows that you're confident enough in yourself to recognize truth, even when it comes from someone else. And isn't that the kind of person we all aspire to be? Someone who values truth over pride. The beauty of saying "you're right" is that it doesn't require complete agreement. For instance, let's say you're debating a project with a colleague. You might say "you're right that this approach could work in the short term." This partial agreement validates their point while leaving room for further discussion. It's a subtle yet powerful way to foster collaboration without sacrificing your own perspective. Stoicism teaches us to approach disagreements with rationality and composure. Marcus Aurelius often reminded himself to separate external events from internal reactions. In the context of conflict, This means letting go of the emotional need to win and instead focusing on what truly matters: the relationship, the shared goal, or the pursuit of truth. Saying you're right embodies this philosophy. It's not about submission, it's about clarity and intention. Let's dig deeper. When you say you're right, you're not just affecting the other person, you're transforming yourself. This act of acknowledgement requires humility, self-awareness, and a willingness to prioritize connection over ego. And the more you practice this, the easier it becomes to let go of the small battles that drain your energy and focus on the bigger picture. But let's not ignore the elephant in the room. What if you genuinely believe the other person is wrong? Should you still say you're right just to keep the peace? The answer lies in balance. Stoicism isn't about blind agreement, it's about discernment. If you can find even a sliver of truth in the other person's perspective, acknowledge it. For example, you might say, "You're right that this issue is important, even though I see it differently." This approach validates their concerns while maintaining your integrity. Here's another angle to consider: the ripple effect of this phrase. When you consistently acknowledge others' points, you set a tone of respect and openness in your interactions. Over time, people begin to see you as a thoughtful, fair-minded individual, someone worth listening to. This not only strengthens your relationships but also enhances your influence. After all, people are far more likely to consider your perspective when they feel you've taken theirs into account. Let's pause here and reflect. How often do you find yourself resisting the urge to agree with someone, even when they make a valid point? How many arguments or misunderstandings could you have avoided by simply saying you're right? The truth is, we often let our pride get in the way of connection. But every time you choose validation over stubbornness, you're not just improving the dynamic, you're growing as a person. Let's end this section with a challenge. Over the next week, pay attention to your conversations, especially during moments of disagreement. Look for opportunities to say you're right and notice how it changes the tone of the interaction. Notice how it affects your own mindset, how it frees you from the need to prove yourself and allows you to focus on what truly matters. As we move forward, we'll explore another phrase that invites connection in a completely different way. What do you think? Stay with me, because this next one is all about empowering others and creating space for their voices. 4. What do you think? Have you ever been in a conversation where it felt like the other person wasn't really interested in your opinion? Maybe they were doing all the talking, steering the conversation in their direction, and never once paused to ask for your thoughts. How did it make you feel? Overlooked? Unimportant? Now imagine the opposite, someone turning to you with genuine curiosity and asking, "What do you think?" That simple question changes everything, doesn't it? It makes you feel seen, valued, and included. Here's the truth. Most people underestimate the power of asking for someone else's opinion. What do you think? Isn't just a question, it's an invitation. It tells the other person that their perspective matters and that you're willing to listen. And in a world where so many conversations feel one-sided, this kind of openness is magnetic. People are naturally drawn to those who make them feel heard. But why does this question have such a strong effect? At its core, it taps into a fundamental human desire, the need to feel important. When you ask someone, "What do you think?" you're validating their intelligence and their ability to contribute. You're telling them, "I trust your perspective, and I want to learn from you." That's a rare and powerful gift to give. Let's take this deeper. The beauty of "What do you think?" is that it shifts the focus away from you and onto the other person. Too often, conversations become competitions. Who can tell the best story, make the sharpest point, or share the most impressive insight? But when you step back and ask, "What do you think?" you're creating a space for collaboration rather than competition. You're showing humility, and that humility is incredibly disarming. Now, think about how this phrase applies to different areas of your life. In relationships, asking "What do you think?" can diffuse tension and foster understanding. Imagine you're discussing a tough decision with your partner. Instead of dominating the conversation with your own ideas, you pause and say, "What do you think?" That question alone can shift the tone from combative to cooperative, paving the way for a more productive dialogue. In professional settings, what do you think is a game changer? It shows that you value the expertise of your colleagues and are open to diverse perspectives. This isn't just good manners, it's good leadership. People are far more likely to support a decision if they feel their input was considered. And let's not forget, some of the best ideas come from unexpected places. By asking this question, you're creating opportunities for innovation and growth. But let's address the elephant in the room. What happens if you ask, "What do you think?" and the other person responds with something you disagree with? This is where Stoic principles come into play. Marcus Aurelius reminds us to approach situations with curiosity rather than judgment. When someone shares a perspective you don't align with, view it as a chance to understand their reasoning. Ask follow-up questions. Explore their point of view. Even if you ultimately disagree, the act of listening builds trust and respect. Let's also talk about timing. What do you think works best when it's asked with intention? It's not a filler question or a way to pass the conversational baton. It's a deliberate effort to engage. Use it when the other person has expertise or experience you lack. Use it when you sense they have something valuable to say but might be holding back. And most importantly, use it with genuine curiosity. People can tell when you're just going through the motions, so make sure your question comes from a place of sincere interest. Here's a question for you. How often do you pause and ask others for their thoughts? Are you actively creating opportunities for dialogue, or do you find yourself dominating conversations? Be honest with yourself. The ability to say, "What do you think?" and mean it is a skill that takes practice, but the rewards are immense. It strengthens relationships, fosters collaboration, and positions you as someone who values connection over control. Now, let's bring this back to you. Think about your own experiences. Has there ever been a moment when someone asked for your opinion and it changed how you felt about them? Maybe it was a teacher who asked for your input on a project, a manager who sought your advice, or a friend who truly wanted to hear your thoughts. How did that moment shape your relationship with them? Did it make you trust them more, respect them more, feel closer to them? Chances are it did. And you can create that same impact on others by making "What do you think?" a regular part of your conversations. As we wrap up this section, let me challenge you to put this into action. In your next conversation, pause and ask the other person, "What do you think?" Then listen, really listen to their response. Resist the urge to interrupt or steer the conversation back to yourself. Let them have the floor and notice how it transforms the dynamic between you. If you've ever had a moment when someone asked for your opinion and it left a lasting impression, I'd love to hear about it. Drop a number 1 in the comments if this resonates with you. And while you're here, don't forget to like this video if you're finding these insights valuable. Hit that subscribe button to join our community and keep discovering powerful ways to transform your relationships and communication. Next, we'll uncover a phrase that has the power to inspire and uplift like no other. I believe in you. Stay tuned, because this one is a game changer. 5. I believe in you. There's a unique magic in hearing the words "I believe in you." Think about the last time someone said that to you. Maybe it was a teacher, a friend, or a loved one. How did it make you feel? Perhaps it gave you courage when you felt uncertain, or reminded you of your potential when doubt had crept in. These 4 words hold extraordinary power because they touch on one of our most basic human needs: the need for encouragement and validation. When you tell someone, "I believe in you," you're giving them more than just words, you're giving them strength. You're showing them that even when they doubt themselves, someone else sees their worth and their capabilities. This act of belief can be the difference between someone giving up and pushing forward. But let's break this down. Why is this phrase so impactful? At its core, it's about trust. When you tell someone you believe in them, you're expressing confidence in their abilities and judgment. You're essentially saying, "I see potential in you, even if you don't see it yourself." That kind of trust is empowering. It challenges people to rise to the occasion and prove not only to you but also to themselves that they're capable of more than they thought. Let's bring this to life with an example. Imagine a friend is nervous about starting a new job. They're overwhelmed, questioning whether they're ready for the challenge. If you say, "I believe in you," it shifts their mindset. Instead of focusing solely on their fears, they begin to consider the possibility that they can succeed. Your belief becomes a seed of confidence, one that grows stronger with every step they take. But here's the catch. For "I believe in you" to work, it has to be genuine. Empty platitudes fall flat because people can sense when your words lack sincerity. To truly inspire someone, your belief must come from a place of understanding. Take the time to recognize their strengths and potential. Notice their efforts and highlight what makes them uniquely capable. For instance, instead of simply saying, "I believe in you," you could add, "I've seen how hard you work and how determined you are. I know you've got this." This specificity makes your words resonate more deeply. Now let's explore the Stoic perspective. The Stoics believed in the power of inner strength and resilience. Marcus Aurelius often reminded himself that people are stronger than they think, and that external challenges are opportunities for growth. When you tell someone, "I believe in you," you're echoing this Stoic principle. You're encouraging them to tap into their inner reserves of courage and perseverance. It's not about promising them an easy path. It's about reminding them that they have the tools to navigate whatever comes their way. This phrase also fosters deeper connections. Think about it. How often do people hear genuine encouragement in their daily lives? The world can be a harsh and critical place, filled with messages that tell us we're not enough. When you stand out as someone who believes in others, you become a source of light in their lives. You're someone they can turn to when the weight of the world feels too heavy. Here's a question. How often do you take the time to express belief in the people around you? Are there friends, family members, or colleagues who could use a reminder of their potential? It's easy to assume that people know how we feel, but the truth is, most of us are hungry for encouragement. A simple, "I believe in you," can have a profound impact, often more than you realize. Let's address another important aspect: timing. When is the best time to tell someone you believe in them? The answer is simple: anytime. Whether they're embarking on a new journey, facing a setback, or just going about their day, these words can be a powerful boost. But they're especially impactful in moments of doubt or struggle. When someone is questioning themselves, hearing your belief can serve as a lifeline. And let's not forget the long-term effects of this phrase. When you consistently express belief in someone, it changes how they see themselves. Over time, they begin to internalize your confidence. What starts as an external source of encouragement becomes an internal strength. They start to believe in themselves, not because you told them to, but because you helped them see what was already there. Finally, consider how this phrase impacts you. When you take the time to see the potential in others, it shifts your perspective. You become more attuned to their strengths and less focused on their flaws. This mindset fosters empathy, patience, and a sense of gratitude for the people in your life. In a way, telling someone "I believe in you" is just as transformative for you as it is for them. Let me leave you with this thought. Who in your life could use these words today? Maybe it's a friend who's struggling, a coworker facing a challenge, or a family member chasing a dream. Don't wait for the perfect moment. Reach out and tell them "I believe in you." You never know how much they might need to hear it, or how much it might mean to them. Next, we'll explore another phrase that's equally powerful in building trust and repairing relationships. I'm sorry, stay with me, because this one has the potential to heal in ways you might not expect. 6. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Two small words with enormous weight. How often do we hear them? And more importantly, how often do we say them with genuine intention? These words have the power to mend broken relationships, heal wounds, and rebuild trust. Yet, for many, they're some of the hardest words to say. Why? Because saying "I'm sorry" requires vulnerability, humility, and courage, qualities that aren't always easy to summon in moments of tension or conflict. Let's dive into why "I'm sorry" is so transformative. At its core, an apology is an act of acknowledgement. It's a way of saying I see the impact of my actions, and I take responsibility for them. When you apologize sincerely, you're not just fixing a mistake, you're showing the other person that their feelings matter, And in a world where people often feel overlooked or dismissed, that acknowledgement can be profoundly healing. But here's the key. A genuine "I'm sorry" is about more than just words. It's about intention. A hollow apology can do more harm than good, leaving the other person feeling unheard or dismissed. To truly make an impact, your apology must come from a place of authenticity. This means being specific about what you're apologizing for and expressing a genuine desire to make things right. For example, instead of saying "I'm sorry if I upset you," you could say, "I'm sorry for interrupting you earlier. I realize that was disrespectful, and I'll make an effort to listen more carefully moving forward." Now, let's explore the Stoic perspective on apologies. The Stoics emphasize the importance of self-awareness and accountability. Marcus Aurelius often reflected on his actions, asking himself if he had wronged and how he could improve. This practice isn't about dwelling on guilt, it's about striving for excellence in how we treat others. When you say "I'm sorry," you're embodying this Stoic principle. You're taking responsibility for your actions and committing to doing better in the future. Here's a question for you. How often do you apologize when you've made a mistake? And when you do, are your apologies sincere, or are they just a way to smooth things over quickly? It's worth reflecting on, because a well-timed, heartfelt apology can be a turning point in any relationship. It shows the other person that you're not just interested in being right, you're invested in the relationship itself. Let's talk about timing. When is the right moment to say "I'm sorry"? The short answer is, as soon as you realize you've hurt someone. Delaying an apology can create more distance and resentment, making it harder to repair the relationship. However, rushing an apology without understanding the full impact of your actions can also backfire. The best approach is to take a moment to reflect on what happened, acknowledge your role, and then apologize with clarity and sincerity. Another important aspect of apologizing is listening. An apology isn't just about saying "I'm sorry," it's about giving the other person space to express how they feel. After you apologize, ask them how your actions affected them and listen without interrupting or defending yourself. This shows that you're not just saying the words, you're genuinely invested in making things right. Here's another angle to consider. Apologizing doesn't just benefit the person you've wronged, it also frees you. Carrying the weight of unresolved conflict can be emotionally draining. By apologizing, you're letting go of that burden and creating space for forgiveness, both from the other person and yourself. It's a powerful act of self-liberation, one that aligns with Stoic teachings on letting go of unnecessary emotional baggage. Let me share a practical example. Imagine you had a disagreement with a friend, and in the heat of the moment, you said something hurtful. Days pass, and you notice the tension lingering between you. You could ignore it and hope it goes away, or you could take the courageous step of reaching out and saying, "I'm sorry for what I said. It was unfair, and I regret hurting you. Can we talk about it?" That simple act of acknowledgement can open the door to healing and restore the bond you share. Now, let's address a common concern. What if your apology isn't accepted? This is a tough situation, but it's important to remember that an apology is about taking responsibility, not controlling the other person's response. If someone isn't ready to forgive, give them time and space. Your job is to own your part in the situation and demonstrate through your actions that you're committed to improving. Over time, they may come around. Before we move on to the next transformative phrase, let me ask you this. Who in your life might be waiting for an apology from you? Is there a friend, family member, or colleague you've unintentionally hurt? If so, don't let pride hold you back. Take the first step. Reach out and say, "I'm sorry." You might be surprised at how much it can heal, not just the relationship, but also your own sense of peace. If you've ever experienced the power of a heartfelt apology, let me know in the comments. Drop a number 1 if you've seen how saying "I'm sorry" can repair a relationship. And don't forget to like this video if these insights are helping you build stronger connections. Hit that subscribe button to stay updated on more ways to transform your relationships and communication. Next, we'll explore a phrase that's all about offering support and strengthening bonds. How can I help? Stay tuned, because this one will show you how to truly show up for the people in your life. 7. How can I help? There's something profoundly moving about the question, how can I help? It's a simple phrase, yet it carries immense weight. Why? Because it shifts the focus entirely away from you and places it on the other person. It's an act of service, a declaration that you're ready to step into someone else's world, shoulder their burden, and offer support without conditions. When you say, how can I help? You're doing more than offering assistance, you're making a statement. You're telling the other person that you see their struggle and that their well-being matters to you. In moments of stress, uncertainty, or even joy, this question signals that you're there for them, fully and without hesitation. It's one of the most selfless things you can say, and its impact can ripple far beyond the immediate moment. Let's explore why this question is so powerful. At its core, how can I help? Embodies humility. It acknowledges that you don't have all the answers and that the other person knows best what they need. This is a rare and valuable mindset. Too often, people rush to offer solutions or advice, assuming they know what's best for someone else. But unsolicited advice, no matter how well-intentioned, can sometimes feel dismissive. By asking, how can I help? You're giving the other person agency. You're respecting their autonomy and allowing them to guide the conversation. This question also fosters trust. Think about it. When someone is vulnerable enough to ask for help, they're placing their faith in you. By responding with genuine curiosity and a willingness to assist, you reinforce that trust. You're showing that you're not just a passive listener, you're an active participant in their journey. Now, let's consider how this phrase aligns with Stoic principles. Stoicism emphasizes the interconnectedness of humanity and the importance of contributing to the greater good. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "What is not good for the swarm is not good for the bee." In other words, our individual well-being is tied to the well-being of others. When you ask, how can I help? You're living out this philosophy. You're recognizing that supporting others strengthens the fabric of your relationships and your community. But here's the catch. How can I help? Isn't a question you can ask casually. To truly make an impact, it requires presence and intention. It means being prepared to follow through on whatever help the other person requests, even if it's inconvenient or outside your comfort zone. This isn't always easy, but that's where the beauty lies. The willingness to put someone else's needs above your own is what makes this question so meaningful. Let's explore some practical scenarios. Imagine a colleague is overwhelmed with a project. Instead of assuming what they need, you ask, how can I help? They might say, could you proofread this section for me? Or can you handle this one part so I can focus on the rest? By tailoring your assistance to their specific request, you're providing exactly what they need without overstepping. Or think about a friend who's going through a difficult time. Rather than offering generic advice, you might ask, how can I help? They might respond with something as simple as, can you just listen while I vent? Or could you help me figure out my next steps? This approach not only strengthens your bond, but also ensures that your support is genuinely helpful. Here's a question for you. How often do you ask this question in your relationships? What do you take the time to find out what others truly need, or do you assume you already know? It's worth reflecting on, because how can I help isn't just about the other person, it's about cultivating a mindset of service and empathy. The more you practice it, the more you'll notice the profound impact it has on your relationships. Now, let's address an important point. What if someone doesn't know how you can help? This happens more often than you might think. In moments of stress or confusion, people might struggle to articulate their needs. When this happens, don't pressure them. Instead, offer suggestions based on your understanding of the situation. For example, you could say, would it help if I handled this task for you? Or would you like me to just sit with you for a while? These offers show that you're thinking about their well-being and are willing to adapt as needed. Another crucial element is follow-through. Asking how can I help is only meaningful if you're prepared to act on the answer. If someone tells you what they need and you fail to deliver, it can damage trust and make them hesitant to rely on you in the future. That's why it's so important to approach this question with sincerity and a commitment to follow through. Finally, Consider how this phrase benefits you. When you ask, "How can I help?" you're stepping outside of yourself. You're focusing on someone else's needs, which can be a powerful antidote to stress, self-doubt, or negativity. Stoicism teaches us that acts of service are not just for the benefit of others, they also help us grow as individuals. By supporting someone else, you're cultivating qualities like patience, empathy, and resilience. As we wrap up this section, let me leave you with a challenge. In the next few days, find someone in your life who might need support. It could be a coworker, a friend, or even a stranger. Take a moment to ask them, "How can I help?" and truly listen to their response. Notice how it deepens your connection and shifts the energy between you. Next, we'll explore a phrase that celebrates the impact others have had on your life. You've made a difference. Stay with me, because this one is all about recognizing the power of gratitude and acknowledgement. 8. You've made a difference. Have you ever had someone tell you you've made a difference? If you have, you know how powerful those words can be. They have the ability to cut through self-doubt, silence the inner critic, and remind you of your impact on the world. In a society that often feels rushed and disconnected, this phrase is a profound reminder that what we do matters, and more importantly, that who we are matters. When you tell someone you've made a difference, you're giving them one of the greatest gifts you can offer: acknowledgement. This isn't about flattery or vague compliments. It's about shining a light on their unique contributions and the ways they've touched your life or the lives of others. It's a way of saying, "I see you, and what you've done has meaning." Let's break down why this phrase is so impactful. At its core, it speaks to a universal human need, the desire to leave a positive mark. Whether consciously or not, we all hope to matter, to make the lives of those around us better, even in small ways. By acknowledging someone's efforts, you're validating that hope. You're showing them that their actions, no matter how big or small, have created ripples of goodness in the world. But this phrase isn't just about boosting someone's morale, it's also about fostering deeper connections. Think about it. When was the last time someone told you that you've made a difference? How did it make you feel about them? Chances are it strengthened your bond. That's because gratitude and recognition create a sense of closeness and trust. They remind us that we're not alone, that our efforts are seen and valued. Now, let's explore how you can use this phrase in your everyday life. First, be specific. A generic "you've made a difference" is nice, but a detailed acknowledgement is unforgettable. Instead of saying "you've made a difference," you could say "you've made a difference in my life by always being there when I needed support. Your kindness and patience have helped me through some of my toughest days." This level of detail not only feels more genuine, but also reinforces the specific ways the other person has impacted you. Let's also consider timing. When should you tell someone they've made a difference? The answer is simple: anytime. This isn't a phrase that needs to wait for a grand occasion or a significant milestone. Whether it's a colleague who helped you solve a work problem, a friend who checked in on you during a tough week, or a teacher who inspired you years ago, the right time to express gratitude is always now. Here's a question for you. How often do you tell the people in your life that they've made a difference? It's easy to assume they already know, but the truth is most people don't hear it nearly enough. Life moves fast, and we often get caught up in our routines, forgetting to pause and express our appreciation. But when you take the time to say you've made a difference, it's like planting a seed of positivity. That acknowledgement can grow into deeper trust, stronger relationships, and a ripple effect of kindness. Now, let's bring Stoic philosophy into the mix. Stoicism teaches us to focus on what's within our control and to practice gratitude for the people and experiences that enrich our lives. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "When you arise in the morning, think of what a privilege it is to be alive, to think, to enjoy, to love." By telling someone you've made a difference, you're practicing this principle. You're choosing to focus on the good and to celebrate the interconnectedness of our shared humanity. But what about the impact on you? How does expressing this kind of gratitude benefit the person giving it? The answer lies in perspective. When you take the time to recognize the positive contributions of others, it shifts your mindset. It pulls you out of the narrow focus on your own challenges and opens your eyes to the abundance of support and goodness around you. This isn't just uplifting, It's transformative. Gratitude rewires your brain to seek out and appreciate the positive, making you a more optimistic and resilient person. Let's also address a common hesitation. What if you feel awkward saying it? This is natural, especially if you're not used to expressing such personal sentiments. But here's the truth. The discomfort is worth it. Most people would rather hear a slightly awkward "you've made a difference" than not hear it at all. And with practice, it becomes easier and more natural. Finally, let me share a challenge. Over the next week, take a moment to reflect on the people who have made a difference in your life. Maybe it's a friend, a family member, a mentor, or even a stranger who brightened your day. Reach out to one of them and tell them you've made a difference. Be specific about how they've impacted you. Notice how their reaction makes you feel and how it strengthens your connection. As we wrap up this final section, let me know if this phrase has ever impacted your life. Drop a number 1 in the comments if someone has ever told you that you've made a difference and how it shaped your relationship with them. If you've enjoyed these insights, don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more content that transforms the way you communicate and connect with others. As we wrap up, let's take a moment to reflect on the power of your words. Every phrase we've explored, "I understand how you feel. Thank you for sharing that with me. You're right. What do you think? I believe in you. I'm sorry. How can I help?" And "you've made a difference" carries the potential to transform relationships, build trust, and leave a lasting impact on the people around you. These aren't just words, they're bridges that connect you to others on a deeper level. The beauty of these phrases is that they're rooted in authenticity and intention. They remind us of the importance of empathy, humility, and gratitude, qualities that are often overlooked in a world that moves too quickly. But when you take the time to speak these words with sincerity, you're not just changing the dynamics of your conversations, you're changing how people experience you. You're becoming someone others trust, respect, and genuinely want to be around. Now, here's the question. Which of these phrases will you use today? Maybe it's taking the time to truly listen to someone and say, "I understand how you feel." Or perhaps it's reaching out to a friend with a heartfelt "you've made a difference." These small acts of connection don't require grand gestures, they just require intention. And that intention has the power to ripple outwards, creating stronger bonds and a more fulfilling life. As you step forward, remember that your words are tools for growth, healing, and transformation, not just for others, but for yourself. By choosing to communicate with empathy and purpose, you're not only improving your relationships, but also embodying the best version of yourself. And that, at its core, is the essence of Stoic wisdom: to act with integrity, serve the greater good, and leave the world better than you found it. If these ideas resonated with you, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Drop a comment sharing which phrase you're most excited to use and how it's made an impact in your life. Don't forget to like this video if you found it valuable and subscribe to join a community dedicated to meaningful growth and connection. Thank you for being part of this journey. Remember, your words have the power to shape the lives of those around you. Use them wisely and watch as the world becomes a little brighter because of your efforts. Until next time, be kind, stay curious, and keep growing.